To be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand BrokeNCYDE. The ironic humor is extremely subtle, and without a solid grasp of hedonistic philosophy and Myspace aesthetics, most of the deep lyrical themes will go over a typical listener's head. For example, in the song Sex Toys with a Z, the author talks about how his girl makes it all seem so easy when she, quote, makes my pee-pee hard. This is of course brilliant commentary on the false value of sex in a society that is obsessed with it. Notice the subtle genius when the author refers to his privates as pee-pee, as if he were a child. This makes for another layer of depth, pointing out how children today lose their innocence to these things at increasingly young ages. The fans understand this stuff. They have the intellectual capacity to truly appreciate the depths of these musical observations, to realize that they're not just cool lyrics, they say something deep about life. As a consequence, people who dislike BrokeNCYDE truly are idiots. Of course they wouldn't appreciate it. I'm smirking right now just imagining one of those foolish simpletons scratching their heads in confusion as BrokeNCYDE's genius wit unfolds itself on their Spotify playlists. What fools! How I pity them. And yes, by the way, I do have a BrokeNCYDE tattoo, and no, you cannot see it. It is for the ladies' eyes only, and even then they have to demonstrate they're within 5 IQ points of my own, preferably lower beforehand. Nothing personal, kid. Roll intro. So memes aside, today we'll be looking at probably one of the best worst albums to ever come out from one of history's most hated bands, BrokeNCYDE's Best of BC 13, a 2012 compilation of their greatest hits. BrokeNCYDE is a scenecore / crunkcore group from Albuquerque, New Mexico, known for their provocative hypersexual lyrics and use of screamed vocals over loud electronic beats. Why in hell would you review this album now, I hear you asking? Well, it's for 2 reasons. 1, it's a giant cringe compilation and has aged so hilariously bad you just gotta hear it. And 2, BrokeNCYDE was, like it or not, one of the most influential groups of the scene era, so I'm gonna try and understand why is that. Let's get into it, track by track. Hope you're mentally prepared. So we kick things off with this screamo rap banger. The track starts with mediocre white guy rapping, a staple of the genre really, with screaming and metal growling sprinkled all over. The lyrics are basically a mishmash of generic party, drinking hose with random edgy stuff sometimes. Whoa there dude, do you need me to call your parents? Is everything alright at home, son? Anyway, the feature here is Deuce. If you're not familiar with him, is one of the founding members of Hollywood Undead, a pretty famous rap rock band, and also he is a solo artist, I guess. His performance here is better than BrokeNCYDE's, but not by much, and again, the lyrics are just so trashy it's incredible. He talks about how he's gonna come all over everybody, and then spouts a bunch of teen angst bullshit about causing trouble and not listening to anybody. Like, how can you look at these lyrics and think, yeah, that's good, let's do that? I give it 2 out of 10 stars, mostly because the beat is kinda cool. Next, audio disaster, please. This one is just so goddamn generic it's unbelievable. The lyrics repeat themselves so f***ing much. The hook is just the words "get crunk" repeated over and over again, and that repetition is repeated like 8 times in the song. Why does this song need to be 5 whole minutes again? But oh wait, they replaced the word crunk with drunk on one of these repetitions. So much variety! They even used the word crunk again a couple of times in the verses, like, what the f*** is wrong with you, b***? We get it, you're a sad alcoholic. The scream rapping on this one is god-awful. There are artists who can pull off aggressive rap well, but this style is just juvenile and painful to the ear. The beat is also extra generic and dry as camel shit, so really I have nothing good to say about it. 0 out of 10 stars. This song should f*** off and die. This is probably one of the less terrible BrokeNCYDE songs, but it's like comparing Columbine to Sandy Hook, so still awful in every way. What do I mean by less terrible? Well, the beat is fine, it works, it's reasonable. The lyrics are again random sexual nonsense, but at least they're kind of funny if you take them ironically. For example, when they say, quote, "I know girls all across the globe and they know me by the Pinocchio." Wow, truly a cultured individual indeed. The screaming is a bit better on this one. The vocals are more in line with screamo or metal than scream rapping. Listening to this album probably lowered my standards a bunch, but I'll give it 4 out of 10 stars for effort. Next up is Booty Call featuring E40. This is another generic crunkcore track like Get Crunk, with another dry ass instrumental that isn't interesting or unique in any way. It's the first time on the album we hear auto-tune singing, but it's really unremarkable and boring. The lyrics reference sweets and sugary stuff a lot, so at least we're getting some more fine poetry like "I'll take you to the candy shack," like Jolly Ranchers, sugar daddies, chocolate covered booty pandies. Sounds like very unhygienic mental illness to me. Anyway, the feature here is by E40. He is a veteran hip-hop artist who has collaborated with a bunch of people like Snoop Dogg and Tupac. The feature here is pretty stale. It doesn't break the song, but it doesn't make it either. It's just kinda there. I'm gonna go with 2 out of 10 stars. I'm sick of this shit. Next. This is one of their most well-known songs. The instrumental is just barely decent, and the autotune singing is a bit cleaner and more melodic. However, the lyrics are yet again about club, bitches, booze and sex, so basically nothing new under the New Mexico sun. The only kind of funny thing about this song is how it has an edgy breakdown where they scream and growl the word liar at this poor girl. What nice dudes you must be. 4 out of 10 stars for finally pulling off autotune singing and for the ridiculous Myspace aesthetic music video. So, how deep are we into this album? Oh, only another 12 more musical turds. Great. Just f***ing great. In this one, our suburban heroes describe their ideal female companion. The lyrics are just so cringeworthy, I'm like 90% sure they were basically just memeing at this point, I swear. Also, there's a growling part that sounds amazingly bad, like seriously, listen to this garbage juice of a delivery. The beat is again uninspired and dull. The song basically has zero value outside of torturing yourself. 2 out of 10. This song sounds exactly like every other dance pop song about partying from the late 2000s or early 2010s, but with screaming, I guess. You can almost mistake it for satire of that type of music because it sounds so damn generic and factory produced. The lyrics are nothing but repetitive rambling about partying and booze, but I'll give it a point just because of the novelty of hearing a scene band butchering the type of music that was popular when I was in middle school. 3 out of 10 stars, let's get it. How can you make so many songs that are literally the exact same thing, almost one-to-one? I have nothing to say about this one that I haven't already said about Get Crunk, Freaks or Booty Call. The only funny lyric is something about punching babies? Like bro, chill. Throwaway song, 1 out of 10, hard pass, next. Okay guys, so have you ever wanted to start your very own Myspace crunkcore band? Well, today's your lucky day because I'm gonna teach you how to sound exactly like BrokeNCYDE in only 5 easy steps. Step 1. Make a generic hip-hop bassline and some synths. No talent required, of course. Just lay down some punchy bass and play with synths until you get something that sounds basic and without dynamics. Step 2. Make the simplest drum beat you can imagine. Just a kick, a clap, and some bare bones hi-hats will work. Step 3. Record some auto-tuned vocals. For lyrics, just pick something about girls, sex, or parties and repeat that a bunch of times. How much auto-tune, you ask? Well,
all of it.
You're a sexy hoe. You're a sexy hoe.
Step 4. Record some screamed vocals and growls. Add a bunch of distortion to make them aggressive as f***. Just repeat the lyrics you wrote for the singing part a bunch of times.
Right now! Why a sexy hoe? Why a sexy hoe? Why a sexy hoe? Why a sexy hoe?
Step 5. Record a rap part. You don't actually need good flows or anything. Just freestyle whatever that comes to your head. Make it as self-referential and shameless as possible.
BC13 here with the boys. We're gonna drink some up, then make some noise. I hate this album and so do you. BrokeNCYDE never dies or something, woo.
Now, just loop that a couple of times, repeat the hook like a billion times, and add some more crappy rap parts, and you're done. Now you're ready to become a top scenester and get famous, mostly due to people hating you and everything you do, while having a fanbase of mostly 13-year-old girls. Now, let's listen to our brand new hit.
You're a sexy
Right now! Why a sexy hoe? Why a sexy hoe? Why a sexy hoe? Why a sexy hoe?
BC13 here with the boys. We're gonna drink some up, then make some noise. I hate this album and so do you. BrokeNCYDE never dies or something, woo.
I love it when you teach me. You make it seem so easy. You make my pee-pee hard. You make my pee-pee hard.
It is all so tiresome. This is probably the worst song I have ever heard in my entire life. I just hate this track. It's a big nothing burger, aside from the girl you make my pee-pee hard thing. That is kind of funny. The instrumental sounds like it was composed by a 13-year-old ripping off Lil Jon on his 2010 pirated copy of FL Studio. May the gods of Myspace scenecore damn this song for eternity. 0 out of 10. Next up on Schindler's Roaring List, we've got a truly profound song about narcissism, because whoever wrote it clearly has it, or is at least LARPing. They basically just gobble up their own in this one. Nothing funny really, just sad mostly. 2 out of 10. This is probably the edgiest track on the record. Listening to it is like vibing with the school shooter or that weird guy who wears I-Gao everything to anime conventions. The lyrics are finally something other than sex and parties. The song starts with a Nightmare on Elm Street reference to set the tone for the truly f***ed up villain monologue that follows. Ah, yes, society.
You know, we're living in a society. We're supposed to act in a civilized way.
The rest of the lyrics are essentially them LARPing again, this time as actual lunatics. And of course, how can you forget the childish views of people who don't like you? This song is a slightly less steaming pile of compared to the rest. The vocal performance is a bit all over the place, but it kind of fits the song's theme, I guess, and the beat is okay. That is a 5 out of 10 for me. You can do it, BrokeNCYDE. I believe in you. BrokeNCYDE actually goes pretty hard on this one. The aggressive vocals are pretty good, and the production is better and adds dynamics. The lyrics are unfortunately still BrokeNCYDE lyrics though. The most interesting part is the end of the song, where you'll hear perhaps the most brutal crunkcore breakdown to ever be made. It sounds pretty much like deathcore, but crunk. This song's a little more interesting and balanced than the album average, but I wasn't moved, so to speak. 4 out of 10.
She's always calling, blowing up my instant messenger. It's getting hot in here, I'm turning up the temperature.
This song sounds so amateurish and just plain not good. The instrumental is outright bad, like Hurt Your Ears bad. The vocals are horrible, and they more or less gave up with the lyrics. There's even a part where they basically waste time by stopping the song for this nonsense.
I will never, ever, 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 no!
0 out of 10. Sorry, it is that bad. Can you possibly guess what this song is about? Yep, it's another degenerate throwaway. Nothing much to say. The only kinda cool thing about it is how it has dubstep elements in it, I guess. 2 out of 10. Next abomination please, Daddy BrokeNCYDE. In case you're not familiar with it, pig squealing is a vocal technique you might hear in hardcore, metal, or deathcore music. You basically imitate a pig by screaming or growling the phrase "bree bree." In this song, our Lord and Savior BrokeNCYDE incorporates this into his music in an awful way that is in fact not good whatsoever. The idea itself is just stupid, like they thought, hey, let's make a meaningless crunk song with pig squealing, but didn't stop to think about how maybe, just maybe, it's not gonna be a good idea. The result is perhaps one of their most infamous songs, and the cause for outraged hardcore and metal fans everywhere, as evident by this 2008 pig squealing compilation. Did I mention how BrokeNCYDE's mascot is also a pig, which also appears on the cover of this album? Seems pretty fitting to the lyrics, doesn't it? That's another 0 out of 10 for me.
Here's a list of I Madonna, Cassandra, Quintana, Kiana, your mama, Brandy, and Sandy, Mandy.
Today, our heroes decided to make a list of all the bitches they f***ed, and that list includes random girl names, your female family members, and of course, celebrities. Not creepy or absolutely morally depraved at all, of course. The lyrics just sound predatory. Like seriously, this song is outright objectifying and misogynistic. Nothing else about it is noteworthy really, and the whispered sex noises don't really help either. Guess it's another 0 out of 10.
Watch the way she drops it when she's rocking to my beats like whoa. Yeah. We get it poppin' like whoa.
On the closing track, we've got yet another disposable tissue of a song. The only different thing about it is that it seems to be the only song on the album with no screaming, yelling, or growling whatsoever. So now you can listen to a BrokeNCYDE song that sounds like regular trash music. 1 out of 10. It seems I have marched out of the deep pits of Myspace hell at last to give you the verdict of justice. Now, it's pretty easy to talk shit about this album because most of these songs are objectively at least medium trash in most or all ways. The instrumentals are mostly generic, lifeless, and amateur. Some tracks have not so good production choices. The lyrics are simplistic and repetitive. BrokeNCYDE literally repeats the same things, or the same things with slight changes, over and over again across many of their songs. The lyrical themes are basically the club, Mahoes, Yes, I do in fact smoke and drink the drugs. I have sex, guys, please acknowledge me, and I am very edgy, ya damn haters. The vocal performances vary in quality. Most make you kinda recoil, some are fine, and some are comically terrible, almost as if it's on purpose. In fact, many of these songs sound like they knew they were like anti-music and bad, and just didn't care and did it anyway for the funsies. Kinda feeling like BrokeNCYDE are the masters of IRL trolling. I'd review this thing as a comedy album, not to be taken seriously, if it weren't for the fact that they do take themselves kinda seriously.
It's real music, you know what I mean? People don't realize that. They think like we might be a joke, or like we're funny people, but we do take our music seriously.
Now, is there anything good I have to say about this album? Well, you can't deny the fact that they're kinda creative, infrequently so. Most of the songs follow a pretty clear formula, but they occasionally make room for intense electronic synth-driven parts, harsh breakdowns, and roaring clashes of different types of vocals. Some songs have noticeably better production value than others. Some of the lyrics are kinda funny, I guess, but this is pretty much where it ends. So let's get back to the question I asked before. Why was BrokeNCYDE so influential on the scene subculture? I have a couple of things to say regarding that. I mentioned it before in my video about the fall of the scene subculture, but they basically pioneered the genre of crunkcore and are currently the only band to really fit this label completely. Like the style or hate it, there was no crunkcore before BrokeNCYDE, and that genre became a staple of scene music during the Myspace era, which influenced a bunch of notable scene groups. It was one of the only somewhat original things that came out of that subculture, and you gotta give them props for that. They were very, very provocative, edgy, and out there. Much more than pretty much anyone else out there at the time, which worked for them in the end, I guess. Not saying they were the only ones, but again, you don't become history's most hated band for nothing. Their lyrics, style, and music videos craved your attention, positive or negative. This is an approach to music that has been around for some time now, and it does work, unfortunately. The synth subculture is no exception. They were also one of the first bands to originate and thrive on the internet, sort of as a proof of concept. BrokeNCYDE's music was internet music, and that's how many people found out about them and got interested. I literally live across the ocean from them, but there are still people who are aware of them and their many misadventures online and offline during the Myspace years. Trash music, sure, but that's still kind of awesome if you ask me. So, what's next for BrokeNCYDE? They still put out new music every now and again. Their lineup has changed a bunch of times, and they still appear to have a small, tight-knit fanbase and some gas left in their tank, so I'll be waiting to review future projects, if they're any interesting. It seems that the phrase repeated in their lyrics holds up. BrokeNCYDE will never die. So that pretty much does it for this video. I was Eden, and you're watching Not Aiming for the Truck. Have a good night, folks. Cheers.